We're getting bigger. I'd say we have about 40 members to the last two tries.
Uh-huh. How come everybody isn't in there yet?
That's what we're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why everybody isn't in that club.
I know.
So I've been busy with stuff, but I told Deed. Deed said at the last annual. By the way, you guys should all make the annual. They're the best things in chiropractic. They're so great. But anyway, we were at the annual, and Deed mentioned that. Gee whiz, sorry about that. My alarm. I don't know what the heck's going on here. What is this? So Deed said he was working at Palmer to get CBP on the curriculum. And I mean, I knew he was, and why wouldn't he? And I said, well, what's going on with that? Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. I think just let you take it away.
All right. So he said that, the problem is that when you introduce CBP, it changes everything. It changes everything in chiropractic. And, that's the truth. So, you've got these other competing uh, uh, adjustment techniques, but they're not really competing because CBP doesn't really matter what your adjusting technique is. CBP is after the adjustment, that subluxation is still in place. And how are you going to change it? And you've got to put that back in place if we're going to remain true to what chiropractic is. So, yeah, CBP changes everything, but it doesn't disqualify. I think you guys should keep in mind that it doesn't disqualify any other adjustment technique that people want to use. But that subluxation is still going to be there, as BJ found, back in 1910 when he first started using X-ray to look at the spine and subluxation and the post subluxation. That bone was still out of place. So what are we going to do? And there's only one thing to do about that, and that's CBP.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you can use any technique with CBP, and I think the hardest thing is just teaching an old dog new tricks. Kind of where we're at.
Ah, so even students have some old dogs.
No, not the students, but they get influenced by certain professors.
Oh, I see.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
and certain stuff.
I think too with students, there's so much concern about learning to adjust, and you feel a bit underprepared at times going through the curriculum. Especially, I'm in fifth try now, and we just started on cervicals, but I've thankfully been fortunate enough to be involved with other clubs and whatnot off campus and organizations that I've been able to get that hands on and feel like, okay, I can at least start to approach this problem. And so a lot of times when club hour comes around, people are interested in techniques that are just the hands-on technique, not necessarily that long-term treatment plan that CBP might be, but they're going, well, I want to get those the snap, crackle, and pop started and feel a little more confident with my hands.
Ah, right. Yeah, I forget that because I remember in eighth quarter and ninth quarter when we first got to clinic, yeah, we were really nervous about being able to adjust. And that people that had done what you were doing, Colin, were a little ahead of the game because they had gone to clubs where they had gotten a little more hands on. Yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten that aspect of it.
I think too, just as a club right now, it's difficult with different different places in the schooling. Plus, too, I mean, CBP is not an easy thing to tackle. Where it's all right, run the nervous scope up the back, and then that's all the she wrote. There's
Uh-huh.
quite a bit to dive into that with it's biophysics. Not an easy concept to tackle for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah, but it's not that hard either. I mean, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember when I was in school, I was, personally convinced that they weren't telling us the truth about X-ray, and that it was more harmful. I was convinced personally that it was more harmful than they were letting on. And so I was convinced that I would never X-ray. And then, about 20 years ago, I said to some of my colleagues, I said, somebody needs to study scoliosis and the negative effects of scoliosis in order to prove to the world, the definitive problems of misalignment of the spine. And this buddy of mine says, well, don't you know about CBP? And I said, no, what are you talking about? So I said, look it up. So I looked it up, and there it was. All the things that I had talked about that somebody ought to do on an abstract level, they had actually done and started, 25 years ago, before I was talking about it, and doing a damn good job putting all of that information together. And so it was all there. And I, as a chiropractor, had never even heard of it. So it really does sort of shock me and appall me that we aren't sort of fluid enough in our own research, in our own knowledge base.
So, Doc, is that how you got involved in CBP?
Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. When I heard about it, read about it online, and got a couple of books, and then took the cervical class and the lumbar class, and then started going to the annuals. And back then they had a hard copy journal that they sent out, so I'd read about that. I don't think they do that all anymore. And so, I had the distinct privilege of meeting Don Harrison. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's DD Palmer, there's BJ Palmer, and there's Don Harrison, that are the three great geniuses of chiropractic. So yeah, and then started going to the annuals. Yeah, I just wouldn't miss an annual. I just think they're so great. There's so much information. And then I just started adding CBP into my office. And my office is tiny. I'm 4 blocks from the nation's capital, from the Capitol building. And it's a historical district. So, I'm in a building. So these buildings are kind of small. But yeah, I squeeze all the CBP equipment in there and do it.
So how long would you say it took since before you had heard about CBP and you had your own office, right? And you were seeing patients. What was the transition like, or the transition time? You kind of talked that you had, picked up, you'd gone to the seminars and other things like that, but did you find it challenging to necessarily get like all the equipment, especially with the smaller office size, and then did it change your treatment plans that you were doing with patients at all? And what was that transition like from pre-CBP to doing CBP kind of full blown?
Right. So it wasn't hard at all because, the way I got to that story, Colin, was because I hadn't had X-ray, and then of course when you do CBP, you've got to do X-ray. And for me, it was a natural fit because there were lots of times where patients didn't respond, or patients didn't respond. I thought that they could have responded better. And so when CBP came along, it makes plain that you're not actually correcting these subluxations. you know, you're teaching subluxation, you're operating on the dynamic of subluxation, but you're not actually fixing them. So for me, it was a natural fit. So then, you know, when I got the x-ray, then you can show people, look, here the subluxation is. And, you know, it's going to take some time to fix it. And we need to do these things like the Denny rolls, things like the Cerviguard collar, things like the eye-track, things like traction with weights. And I had also bumped into Pedabon too. So, you know, wobble chairs and things like that, head weights, postural correction. So I think that it really helped because lots of people would come in and they'd been to other chiropractors and they were unsatisfied with what the chiropractors did or the treatment. And so when you're a CBP doctor, you're saying, well, look, you know, basically these are postural issues and you can see your posture is not that good. And, you know, what I say is not to make, because I don't want to make the other chiropractor look bad because that makes chiropractic look bad. And so my approach is I say, you know, professions, science, it's always learning. It's always adding new stuff. And I said that, you know, chiropractic has had a breakthrough in terms of posture and misalignment. And, you know, these things are, you can't find them without the x-ray. And they're very stubborn. They're very tenacious. And sometimes ordinary chiropractic, I call it ordinary chiropractic won't get the job done. And we've got to find it on the x-ray. We've got to, you know, analyze your alignment on the x-ray because nothing can hide from the x-ray. And then I say, you know, we can do some things at home, Denny rolls, postural exercise, etc., that are going to go deeper than ordinary chiropractic. And I say that, you know, in 40 years, this is going to be the standard of care in chiropractic. It isn't right now because, you know, professions, science are always learning and adapting and incorporating, and that's where we are right now. And so, you know, it gets people to hold up, stop, and think. And, you know, they look at you differently and they realize, and they soon learn that chiropractic has this extra gear, this added depth that they were not acquainted with. And they give the profession and the science a second chance that otherwise they would not have. And you know, you look at the research that Pedabon put together, and of course, the person who put that together, it turns out, was Don Harrison. You know, reading his books, and so you know, if the thing is subluxated, it's going to age 2 to 3 times faster than normal there, and you know, that's a law of nature. It's not going to get better. You know, Vern Pierce. I learned from him years back, you know, Vern Pierce of Pierce Stillwagon technique. You know, he was the first I heard ever say, you know, things are getting worse or things are getting better. Nothing stays the same. So that subluxation, that's like a piece of cancer inside you that's aging 2 to 3 times faster than normal. And people understand it. So for me, it was not a hard transition at all. You know, showing the x-rays and talking to these people. It's so common sense, I find, that people don't fight it. You see their heads nodding. They understand. They grasp it. You know, I tell them, look, you know, everybody knows about how important diet and exercise is. We've known since Hippocrates how important diet and exercise are, and then losing weight. And that's basically it. But, you know, that does not make health linear and predictable. And I say there's a third dimension here, and that's structure. And, you know, nothing is what it is without its structure. And I say, you know, the human being, the body frame is like a musical instrument. It needs to be precisely tuned The research says if it's off even a millimeter, in your finger, it's going to degenerate 2 to 3 times faster than normal. That's all there is to it. So it needs to be perfectly aligned. And the only way, and the more weight bearing the joint, the more important it is. And so the only way to find that, it can't, you've got to X-ray, and you got to analyze and find out where it is. And then when you add that third piece of that structural piece to diet and exercise, now we're talking about something really important. We're talking about something that changes human existence. But if you're just going at it with just the diet and the exercise piece and lose a little weight, you're not going to figure this out. Health and well-being are not going to be linear and predictable, and I think they can be. They are. They're meant to be. They're not meant to be hidden truths that just aggravate us and stress us and make us miserable.
Do you work with dietitians or other nutritionist modalities, other healthcare providers in your office, or do you refer people, or do you try and handle a lot of that?
I don't get into that much myself, because I've got a little bit of a personal interest in it, but not that much. So I'm not an expert, and I don't have room. I've got less than, I think I'm at like 1,200 square feet for my office.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what I find is that, in Washington, D.C., most people have already been to all of those people. And a chiropractor is the last person they try. So usually in their little team, they've already got people. And the essence of that nutrition side is basically, vegetables and fruits. So if it seems like we're not getting the problem solved, then I'll tell them, you need to look at your diet and your exercise. Probably you're drinking sodas, right? Blah blah blah. You're talking to them about obvious things. So in part it's just meeting the patient where they are and how much effort are they going to put into their own well-being. And but like I say, in DC at least, I find that I'm probably the last puzzle piece they're going to look at. And so they've got their healthcare team together. And so they're doing all of these things, or they're doing them to their satisfaction. And so where I can really change their life is saying, look, you ain't what you are without your structure, and your posture is falling apart. And, it's rotting from the inside out. And everybody, 9 people out of 10 out there walking around on the street, you've seen them yourself. They're collapsing forward. Their head posture is parallel with the ground. It's not right. You cringe in your internal instincts knowing that that's not right. And that's basically what the job of the chiropractor is, to stop you from becoming that way. And, it's partly up to me and it's partly up to you. And this is where it begins.
To circle back to what you had said on a lot of your patients coming to you as a last resort, what kind of systems or methods do you use to continue to get patients new patients to come in? Do you utilize like a lot of referral networks? Do you utilize other practitioners who kind of send to you once they're not getting results? Or do you have any management companies that you like to work with as far as systems that they use to get new patients?
So I've been with a couple of different, practice consultants. My favorite was Eric Plasker. I really liked him. I found that what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. I find that a lot of practice management companies are like, training you about how to reach people like based on their personality profile. And, maybe that works. It just seems too superfluous to me. too complicated. For me, I like hitting the basics. It's a horrible thing to see people, hunched forward, becoming hunched back. And, and I imitate, sort of like, their relative that's, got these gait problems, people are vain. They don't want to look like that. Yes, some people are, they're really motivated by their health, but a lot of people are motivated by just their physical vanity, and they don't want to be hunchbacked. And I tell them that, I learned from CBP. I learned from a CBP annual that misalignments of the spine, they degenerate like 1 millimeter a year up until the age 40, and then they double in that degeneration rate after the age of 40. So, I tell people that and they nod. I'm just measuring their head movement. They're nodding. Are they getting it or not? And then I say, look, I remember reading somewhere where the average American male dies 3.7 years after they retire. And I tell people, look, we're investing in, we're working our butts off, to get to retirement. So how much well-being do you want to take with you into retirement? And so much of that is structure and posture. And these subluxations and these massive postural subluxations degenerating. And you have no choice. You need to take the bull by the horns and pull this thing out of arrest and start straightening it out. And there's no secret. You can see it. You can see your own forward head posture. A lot of people tell me, it's like, I saw it in photos. It's funny you talked about that. I was really concerned. I look at myself in family photos and I see myself becoming hunchbacked. So for me, it's like hitting those basics: structure, posture, aging, how much well-being you want to carry forward into retirement. You work your ass off, and then really you're going to die 3 years later, or how incapacitated are you going to want to be? Do you want to be able to walk? Do you want to be able to lift? Do you want to be able to go up and down stairs? Do you want to be in a walker? I don't find it's like aggressive. I think that people are thinking about this, and the common sense of structure is there, so that it makes sense at all times.
So what tools do you utilize to get those patients in the door to have that conversation?
I took like on purpose, and I had heart rate variability in my office. I had EMG in my office, and I was kind of startled, when I had the beautiful surface EMG in my office that I got from Chris Kent and Gentempo, which is a marvelous instrument. But we just kind of got overwhelmed and couldn't do it on everybody. But I'll tell you what, I was doing the Pedabon stuff and I was doing the CBP stuff, and I was making better changes in that surface EMG than anybody else was. And I was kind of shocked when I saw Gentempo do a lecture, and because they really like network. And they said, yeah, network gets the best results. And I was looking at the pre and post, and I was saying, dude, I'll blow those away. I will blow those away with Pedabon and CBP. Mm-hmm. So I used all of that stuff, and I just found that talking about posture, structure, and X-ray was making a difference, getting deeper into people's psyches and making them, that person and me, talk on the same level, faster and more efficiently than anything else. So I'm all for that stuff. It all works because, as you make that patient better, we're bringing them back to normal, and all of those things reinforce and show improvement, given time. But I just found that structure was the most efficient pathway of communication. And so for me now, it's basically, I just talk off x-ray and I just talk off posture and structure.
Mm. So walk us through what a typical treatment day would look like in your office. As far as, walking in, greeting the front desk and, doing any prehab, the treatment, and then traction, etc.
Okay. New patient or patient in process?
I guess both. And then do you work with a lot of wellness cases, like once people are out of the treatment plan?
I do. Yeah.
So I guess a sprinkle of all three of those, and what are some key differences, and what do you kind of keep the same?
Right. So I find that I do the standard EAT, exercise, adjust, traction. But I often find that when people come in, because of my limited office space, we cheat on the exercise. So they might not do so much. So I emphasize the traction and I emphasize the home care. So when they come in, accepted patient, and they're coming in, we say hello. Maybe they do a little bit of exercise. We do the adjustment, and then we do our traction. And again, I'm emphasizing home care. And if they have a difficult case, like in a cervical case, I'm gonna recommend the new Cerviguard. I think that's a great new tool for us. And so for like a new patient, they come in and I always ask them, have you been to a chiropractor before? And I talk about that a little bit, and what went well and what went wrong. And then I introduce the CBP stuff, so that they have an understanding. And oftentimes, I don't want to just sort of like pressure them. So I say, look, here's what I do, and we do X-ray, and I feel that it's a real difference maker. It is transformed chiropractic, and it will be the standard of care in maybe 20 years or 40 years. I don't know when, but we can't leave these bad postures in place, so that they understand that there's a difference about what I'm talking about and what they've experienced. And if they have like a really light, thing, like, yeah, I got this thing that, it barely bothers me, and they've been to other chiropractors, I don't want to hit them, too heavy handed, because, like there's, a lot of stuff out there about chiropractors, well, with X-ray and stuff like that. So I'll say, look, let's do an adjustment, and you understand where I'm coming from. But if it doesn't get better, then we're going to do it my way. We're going to, because it can't hide from the X-ray. If you're properly aligned, the incidence of problems is zero. You would not be in my office if you were properly aligned. So take what I consider, take what I've said, think about it. When you're comfortable with it, we can take some X-rays, and let's do some adjusting and give you the chiropractic that you're used to. And I find that I don't find anybody has a problem, if you give them the latitude to make up their own mind, inform them, informed consent. I think that's a really good approach for gaining people's trust. Doctoring eventually, it all comes down to trust and results. If you don't give them the results, the trust isn't going to be there. They're going to go someplace else. I've got a guy now who, has been under chiropractic care, and he decided to come and give me a shot, and his posture is horrible, and he didn't want to do X-rays. And, he's been in this was his 4th visit. And I said, so how are you coming along? He said, it's better. It's better. It doesn't last. I said, we don't have X-rays on you yet. He said, and I'm thinking of going to a pain specialist. I've got a pain specialist appointment in a month. And I said, well, remember, I told you you know, your posture is awful. We need to take x-rays of you. And only when you do x-rays can we start doing some home care where you can actually help yourself. Because I've told you that you need to stand up straighter, but you're, you know, folded over a computer all the time. So at least give chiropractic the basics, because I think you're cheating yourself where your chiropractic is concerned. So, you know, about, at that point, I'd already given him his fourth adjustment. And I said, you know, CBP protocol, you know, we can't adjust you. We don't want to x-ray you after you've had your adjustment, because your posture is going to be too much improved, just because, you know, we've cleansed your brain, and your proprioception and your muscle strength is going to, both are going to be 9.5% better. So when you come in next time, let's x-ray you. And he was fine with that.
Do you find a lot of patients pushing back on that? I know that's been a bit of a controversy recently. I know, especially in, I want to say it was in Canada, and then Australia kind of had a little tussle with it, and the ACA too. And then I'm not sure if you've read, I think it was one of the Harris's responses to that, to the chiropractors taking x-rays for chiropractic analyses and all that. So I guess, do you find a lot of patients kind of fight you on that, or is it once you give them the option, they're usually pretty inclined to do x-rays?
You know, I hear about people having difficulties with it, and I am really surprised. I mean, maybe I'm charming or something, but you know, here I am in DC, and DC people are like really, you know, they're like too smart for their own good. You know, they're, you know, give people half the information and they'll really get themselves in trouble. You know, but no, I find very little pushback on X-ray. I'm really surprised, considering, you know, I'm in DC, which is like, you know, litigation capital of the world. I will touch on hormetic effect, you know. You know, I'll talk a little bit about X-ray hormesis and stuff like that. But yeah, I just I don't know. I don't, you know, maybe it's that structural postural thing, but I'd say recently I've had maybe 3 or 4 new patients, and they're all transferring in from other chiropractors, and they're a little hesitant about the X-rays. But I would say without them clouding my math, I would say 3% are resistant to having X-rays. So really, I think really very few. And like I say, I don't push them. I say, you know, and you know, in fact, I've had, you know, people in the past, long-term patients of mine. This is an interesting point. So a quick aside, it's worthwhile covering with the CBP group. So these are long-term wellness patients of mine, right? And so I start doing CBP, and they say, yeah, you know, I like you as a chiropractor. I love chiropractic. I don't need the X-rays. And I said, okay, that's fine. But as soon as you get a serious health problem and ordinary chiropractic is not fixing that, then we're going to take some X-rays and we're going to do CBP. Or we're going to do concentrated, focused CBP, not just piddling around CBP to improve your posture a little bit. So I've had 7 patients that developed some form of cancer. 2 of them breast cancer, and the other serious cancers. And then I said, okay, there we go. That's it. You know, you've been under regular chiropractic care and you developed cancer. As far as I'm concerned, that should not have happened. Okay. So now we're going to find the chiropractic problem and we're going to deal with it. So one of them is a very famous woman. She's written multiple books on cancer and medicine. And, you know, she had an angle. I told her, I said, I'm not going to say her name. It's very unique. But, you know, she had ovarian cancer. And it was touch and go. And, you know, for years, and she didn't want to have x-rays. And I said, come on. I mean, we're, we can help you here. I said, I'm almost certain we're going to find a serious subluxation relative to, neurologically relative to your ovarian cancer. So she finally relented because it looked bad for her. So, and this was, like 7 years of touch and go. And she's saying, yeah, I'm doing this, peppermint, blah, 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 and everything like that, blah, blah, blah. And it's the peppermint and it's these other things I'm doing. And I'm saying, yeah, Deborah, I think it's this, So anyway, so we took x-rays and sure enough, that L3, L2 was way out of place. And I said, Deborah, there it is. We gotta fix this. So she travels extensively. So I'm doing sideways traction on her and she's doing great. When she's in town, I aggressively pull that L3, L2 with traction. And she says, so she says, David, I'm not sure if it's this or if it's the chiropractic or if it's, the new thing I'm doing. And I said, I think it's this. And so that's typical of, these other cases that, like I said, ordinary chiropractic and, they develop cancer. And I said, okay, all right, now we're doing the CBP, right? And we're doing the CBP and they're all doing good.
That's awesome. So, what would going back to kind of your practice setup and flow? I'm just curiosity out of numbers. What kind of new patients per month or per year, or do you track that at this point in your career? Are you? I guess I know that's a big thing for a lot of people once they first open up and all that. They're like, I got to reach these numbers per day, these numbers per week, and all that jazz. Is that even in your focus anymore, or do you kind of just go in?
Yeah, it's not my focus anymore. And now I'm even semi-retired. I'm only working on Tuesdays and Fridays. I'm going to keep that schedule for as long as I can. I'm doing a lot of writing now. I've always, had sort of a dual career of writing and doing chiropractic and a lot of Tai Chi. Yeah, I have never really been focused on the numbers. In fact, I opened my practice 4 blocks from the Capitol building because originally, many years ago, I wanted to be a chiropractic lobbyist for the ICA. And then I just lost interest in that. And now I'm becoming interested in that again, at least in the ICA. And in universalizing the chiropractic message, because I'm convinced that when I was in school, I graduated in October 1980, and we were convinced that the world was going to open up in 10 years. The medical hypnosis, the medical industrial hypnosis was going to end in about 10 years, and now we can see with COVID, it's never been worse. It's only getting worse. So, I've been thinking a lot about this and writing a lot about this. And I really think that chiropractors need to get involved in politics on their local level or on any level. And I think it would help their practice. And I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, because in my time here as a chiropractor, I have never seen anything unify the left and the right, and people on the left and the right. I mean, they're all political animals where I am. They all agree. They say, David, you're right. Holistic healthcare costs. The right and the left are unified on that being a concern, and also their questioning of that medical model, that aggressive, heroic, put everything aside. We're going to save you. Your natural health and immunity cannot save you. We're the only chance you have. And both sides don't like it. It just doesn't resonate. And it shouldn't. So I think the chiropractors need to get pointedly more involved on politics on any level that they're comfortable, bringing their people in, Democrat or Republican, and having them speak in their offices so that chiropractors can begin, because I'm convinced that, the division between the left and the left is, hey, we need to spend more money on the poor and social welfare programs. And, they're absolutely right. No society has spent enough money and attention on these things. And then on the right side, they're saying, yeah, but if you take too much money away from these things, you're going to pull money away from what I call the pursuit of human genius. I mean, that's what business is. It's genius, great or small. Genius, great or small, to solve our problems. And it needs money. It needs a lot of money, because a lot of quote unquote genius ideas are not going to pan out. So it's kind of like cloud funding. The more money that there is for it, the more you can pursue that. So the linchpin that stops the left and the right coming together is the fact that the world does not understand that there's something called brain first healthcare that's here, and that medicine has been stepping on since 1895, when chiropractic has been discovered. If you look at the history of chiropractic and medicine, it's really amazing how much they've stepped on it. And so, CBP, brings chiropractic to fruition like nothing ever has, in a very, linear way. And, so brain first healthcare stands at the point of unification between left and right. And the left and the right are never going to come together without a holistic, competent, inexpensive treatment for healthcare and the underprivileged, et cetera, et cetera. And that's chiropractic. And so I say, the chiropractors have to become more involved in politics and let this be known that we exist, that we're here, because people are going to listen. Whether you want socialized medicine or you want privatized medicine, it's not going to work out. And as frustration mounts, they're going to be more open to the fact that we're the only game in town.
Even from when you started practice to now, what are some of the more drastic changes you've seen? Because even since I've gotten involved, not necessarily with chiropractic, but growing up, and social media is becoming more present, and other ways of just peer-to-peer communicating with people that's not the evening news. How have you seen maybe some of those modalities come forward in allowing chiropractors to speak to the public and public interest in chiropractic change over your career?
Well, I remember that, when I first, I started practice, I think in 1981. And I worked in a friend's office in Silver Spring, Maryland. And I had a patient, and they had something concerning, and I wanted an x-ray for it. And so I sent it a couple of x-rays, cases up for x-ray, to Holy Cross Hospital outside of DC. And they took about 4 sets of x-rays for me, as I requested. And then a guy, I guess the radiologist at the hospital, sent a letter that said that the Holy Cross Hospital would no longer take x-rays on the request of a chiropractor. So I was like really shocked. I mean, hey, I'm licensed in Maryland and DC, and a portal of entry healthcare provider. What the hell's the deal here? Today, I mean, things are so much more open. I mean, and like, I think I saw somewhere where, like, I want to say like over 30%, might have been more, 40% of millennials were open to chiropractic as the first choice for like any sort of a body pain issue. So, I mean, that is really, really huge. As to, social media and stuff like that, frankly, I'm trying to explore that more myself and become more involved with that myself. And like I say, I want to get involved with the ICA because I want to push chiropractors to this message to get involved in politics. I think it will help your practice. And I think it will, politics is the last refuge. It's the only place where you can't be censored, you know? Everywhere else, they can cut you out and they can pretend you don't exist. But the political process is the last refuge where chiropractic can speak and get its message fully out. So on the particulars of social media and stuff like that, I'm becoming more involved with that myself, and I want to become more involved with that myself. I am very encouraged by how many people I see open to chiropractic now, despite all the pressure to have tried and bury chiropractic. So I don't know. Did that answer your question or follow up?
I think, yeah, you did. I also just wanted to say for everyone else listening, feel free to hop in with your own questions by all means. If anyone's wondering anything, they have every right to hop in too. Another question I kind of had was, what advice would you give to current students as we look towards graduation, and any advice of things we can do in school and then immediately out of school to help kind of prepare ourselves and get through maybe any hiccups that you see a lot of new doctors go through.
Right. So you brought that up that point, Colin, that I had forgotten about, since it was a while back that I was at Palmer. But yeah, that apprehension about adjusting. So yeah, get your hands on people and get over that. It's not that hard. I remember there was a guy, and I heard him speak. He was interviewed by Dr. Chris Kent and Patrick Gentempo. And this guy had a great idea. And he went around, he said they had a monthly luncheon, and they invited all the chiropractor hotshots around San Diego. And they gave them a lunch, and they said, tell us what you think. How do we become good chiropractors? And they asked all of them, what's your private, personal, go-to best chiropractic maneuver that no one else does? And this guy was a wealth of information of oddball, highly effective, highly peculiar, particular adjustment techniques. Get your hands on people, become a very good adjuster, get over that trepidation. And then I would say, learn your CBP, soak in that CBP, because I'm telling you, it clears away so much doubt, and it gives you so much more conviction. Like I say, when you've got these people who are resistant, you're going to meet people who are resistant, and you can either throw them out of your office with this arrogant attitude of, I'm the doctor, and, you can do something else. And that's just not my personality. But you will have this conviction and this knowledge, this certainty that no one else is going to have. And I just feel so lucky. I have this attitude that if there's three things that every kid should be brought up and should learn. One is how to manage money and invest money and make your money grow for you. Number two, the law, so that you're not intimidated by threats or whatever, and the law and the process, and it's all it all makes good sense. And number three, the most important thing in the world is chiropractic and CBP and how you make sense of human health. So that's certainty. And so on top of that, I would say, as a student approaching graduation and getting out, take your time. I would latch on to go to somebody's office that you respect, a CBP office that you respect, and get in there and watch how they do it. and, learn their processes and soak it all in, and do that before you set out on your own.
Who are a few docs now that you really kind of look for either new research that's coming around, practice management, interacting with patients, X, Y, or Z? Who are some docs that you would recommend, following on either social medias or just, they're checking out their office, if we have the opportunity?
I just don't really have much time. I haven't done that yet, but the people I admire are those key people in CBP who have published a lot of research. From the annuals, you can tell they're just very conscientious. They're extremely capable, and they're just real assets. And so I'd follow them, and I'd try and hook up with them. And if you can't get in with them, who would they recommend?
Mm-hmm. On that kind of same area, do you have any books that you recommend? Any ones like chiropractic or health specific?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all of the Pettibon work and all of the CBP work. I bumped into a treasure trove of stuff from Pettibon, and I learned later from Don Harrison's book that he had been hired by Pettibon to become like a full-time researcher. And basically what the dude did is he crunched the numbers, on the entire encyclopedia of what was known about physical medicine for years, and synopsized it. And that was just so, seeing that efficient encapsulation of all that was known was just fantastic. So that was like the Pettibon work. I don't know if he rewrote it again under the umbrella of CBP. So that was really good. All of the CBP stuff, taking all of the modalities, right? It's all a great distillation. And then I would recommend strongly that everybody join the Association for Chiropractic History. I'm coming out there actually next month, the 18th, 19th, and 20th of June. I'm presenting at the Association of Chiropractic History. But get involved there, get those old magazines, and read those. Read about the old chiropractors and the history of chiropractic. You learn a lot about the profession and how to communicate it and how to be a chiropractor. From that, and seeing what the old dudes and the gals did. I would read. I got a lot out of the Chester Wilk book on the 1976 antitrust suit, Wilk versus the AMA et al. That was a real eye-opener to let you know how aggressive, how adversarial a lot of the official hierarchy is, how much they're in the pockets of that medical industrial complex, how a term that we have in Washington here called regulatory capture. They've got so much money that they capture the process coming and going. So that, I think chiropractors for a long time, for generations, they just thought, sort of naively, that the truth would prevail. And I think that we've got to be more aggressive than that. We've got to push the envelope. Human society does not like the elite. They don't like being told what to do. They don't like the smell of being told that they're not given all of the information. And I think that these are the constant Achilles heels of a dishonest establishment. And like I say, the left and the right, they both know it. They both don't like it. And that is a practice opportunity. That is a community service opportunity that appeals to all. And so by looking back, at least, for me, looking back at chiropractic history, the two books on the life of Leo Spears. Do you guys know who Leo Spears was? Leo Spears was a chiropractor who he got really sick in World War I and probably would have died, and chiropractic saved his life. So he became a chiropractor, and he wanted to help World War I veterans that were horribly, horribly damaged by the stress of the war, shell shock, etc. And he found that the medical establishment, even then, 1919, 1920, 1921, was not interested in helping these guys if it was someone other than the medical establishment. They didn't want to share the glory. And he became extremely disenchanted and extremely motivated. So Spears, started building a hospital in the 1930s, late 1930s. And by the 1950s, that was a 4,500 bed dedicated chiropractic hospital in Denver, Colorado. And that guy, he's a giant too, along with, the Palmers, Don Harrison, and Leo Spears. I find that those biographies about Spears are very, very interesting. So, for me, it's like these chiropractic history books and these biographies about these chiropractors I find are very, very motivational.
That's awesome. I've never heard of Spears, but I mean, that's pretty cool setting up a shop like that in Denver and getting that magnitude.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They attacked that guy. Oh yeah. And the thing is about Leo Spears, he was born around 1900 and he died around like 1957, 1959, basically of ulcers. And this is a guy, a chiropractor, he believed in chiropractic. He grasped it wholeheartedly. He even offered to, he had a press conference with Denver media and he said, look, it's about time chiropractic, stood up with medicine and said, hey, let's cure cancer. And the MDs and the media, they said, look, nobody on the medical side is going to stand up and help you with that. And he said, yeah, maybe I'm naive about that, but in any event, so the guy totally grasped chiropractic, and yet he died at a fairly early age of ulcers. And I know the guy got chiropractic care, ordinary chiropractic care. So that for me goes into the hopper of CBP. Look, I know this guy got ordinary chiropractic care, and yet he died at a very young age. And I think that if, he had been x-rayed and we mapped his spine and, racked that spine of his back in place, I think he would have lived to a much, much older age.
All right, I did a quick Google here. It looks like there's actually a 30-minute documentary on YouTube about Leo Spears. Yeah.
Spears? Oh my God. Oh, I'm glad you picked that out. I got to watch that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it is, but that's a quick Google and that popped up for me.
Wow. Yeah. Boy, he really went through it. That guy, he tussled for us like crazy. And yeah, you get a lot of insight about what we're up against and how we have to, it's resting on our shoulders, as I say, the human brain is not going to get out of the way of our future, and people can deny it. So is it going to take 50 years? Is it going to take 300 years? Is it going to take 400 years? But you cannot cure disease, which is caused by stress, by introducing any system of endogenous stresses. You've got to go to the level of the brain and consciousness, and that's where we are. That's what we do. The avenue of entry is the body is a musical instrument. It needs to be precisely tuned. That's all there is to it. And so, you know, it sort of takes your blinders off and gets you talking efficiently and frankly and forthrightly to break through to people and make them understand what you do, what we offer, and where we have to go together.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're coming up a little past an hour here too, so I'd like to encourage anybody else that's listening, if they have any questions that they'd like to ask. Otherwise, I guess I'd leave you to any closing remarks you'd like to make. I think we've had a pretty awesome chat so far.
Well, closing remarks for me would be, I'd love to do it again. You know, maybe we can get more people. You know, we've got to keep hitting people with the message. Chiropractors and non-chiropractors alike. You know, it's message, 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 message. I'm happy to come again sometime. And you know, when I'm out there, the 18th, 19th, 20th at the Blackhawk Hotel. Maybe you guys can show up and come on down to the Association for Chiropractic History, hear my presentation, hear other presentations, and maybe join up. But let's just keep pushing the ball forward.
Definitely. Unfortunately, I think that is over our summer break, so I think a chunk of us are, I think it's right as we get on to break. But that would be awesome. If anyone is in town, they want to go on that, we can definitely share that information in our club page.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah, spread the message. I like that. And if no one else has any questions, I think that's all I had for you too. I think it's been a great chat.
All right, Collin. I hope it's been good. And Joseph, thank you. Thanks for all you guys' help and putting this together. Is that it?
I think so, unless anyone else has any questions they want to hop in on.
All right, folks. All right. Well, hopefully we'll meet down the road.
Yep.
Later on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Everyone's saying thank you in the chat too.
Thank you.
Thank you.